With domestic growth picking up but global demand getting ever worse, Israel's central bank has a delicate balancing act to perform. Joining me now is the bank's Deputy Governor, Karnit Flug. Dr. Flug, many thanks for talking with Reuters. Let me start by getting your reaction to what Bernanke announced last night in the US and the extent of your concerns over what this does to the shekel, because I imagine it puts quite a lot of upward pressure on your currency.
Yeah, that's one effect could be some upward pressure on the shekel. The other effect is, of course, if this policy is effective and if the U.S. economy as a result sort of strengthens up, that means maybe higher global demand, higher demand for our exports.
So does that outweigh the worry over the currency?
It's hard to quantify, but there are also good news about it, because that may mean a stronger U.S. economy. I hope it means stronger U.S. economy.
Let's talk about Europe as well. This is your biggest export market. Exports haven't been hit too bad. But let me ask you first, on Mario Draghi's announcement last week, I imagine you were pleased to see or to hear what he said. Should he have done it sooner?
Well, I can't judge that, but I hope that actually the move there increases the chance of actually getting a solution for Europe, which would mean reduced risk of a breakup and further difficulties. And again, that means if Europe is stronger, it means better markets for us, and that's from that perspective, it's important.
How has your export market remained so resilient in light of the weakness surrounding it?
Well, we have seen some weakness in our exports. Generally, we're very affected by the global sort of diminishing global demand. We have actually, there was an Intel company that started exporting and increased very much their exports recently, so that also helped.
That helped. All right, let me put it a different way. The Stats Bureau raised the 2012 forecast to 3.5% for this year. You say 3.1. This is impressive growth given the weakness, the global weakness, and indeed given the geopolitical uncertainty. How do you stay at 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, given that context?
Well, you have to compare it also to our potential and the fact that we've actually grown by 4.8% in the preceding 2 years. So there is a slowdown in the rate of growth. But still we're holding up, and actually the labor market is doing okay. So there is a slowdown. And that's the effect of the global slowdown. And
is the bank happy with the 3.1% for this year? Or is that going to come down, do you think?
Well, I think we're around 3% at the moment. I think that we would have to pick up quite significantly in the second half of the year to have much more than that for 2012.
At what level, and I know this is a tough one for the central bank to respond to, but at what level, when you have your meetings in the central bank with Mr. Fisher, etc., at what level do you look at GDP and say, when it reaches that, we're going to cut again?
Well, it doesn't go quite like that. Of course, we do look at what's happening in terms of activity, but we also look at other factors. Of course, we look at inflation. So there are many considerations going into a decision.
You could cut again by the end of the year?
Well, depending on the outlook, depending on if there is a significant change in the outlook, if things turn to the worse, and if there are no inflationary pressures, there is, potentially it's a possibility.
Fiscal policy is, of course, another big issue in Israel. Are we going to see an early election? I think the finance minister said 50-50.
Well, I can't say more than what he said. I mean,
it's as uncertain as that, is it?
Yeah, I think we're at a crossroad, and if there is a possibility to actually come to an agreement on formulating a fiscal budget for next year, I think that will happen. If there is no agreement, and actually the budget for next year is quite challenging, so it's not an easy task.
Are you hopeful for agreement?
Well, I think that if an agreement is reached so that the spending will actually adhere to the spending rule in a way that we can actually meet the 3% target deficit, I think that would be a good thing for the economy.
Let me just finish up with, again, the geopolitical uncertainty and the Iran situation. Clearly things are heating up. What impact could that have on the economy? And is it something international investors really need to worry about?
Well, it's hard to sort of talk about a specific scenario. Obviously, there is some nervousness and the risk premium have increased somewhat. But if we're talking about a contained event, and we have seen security events before. We had the Lebanon war in 2006, and we saw that there was an impact on the economy for one quarter, and then the economy bounced back. So the economy is quite resilient, but it's hard to talk about any specifics.
Okay, Dr. Flug, many thanks for talking with us today. Karnik Flug, Israel's Deputy Central Bank Governor, with us here in London. That's it from me. I'm Axel Threlfall. This is Reuters.